Hey, what's up guys? My name is Blossums and welcome to another Genshin Impact video, and today kicks off the start of a brand new series on the channel that is going to be focused around non-meta builds for characters. Typically when I do build guides, I try to steer you guys in the most effective or efficient way to build a character, but this series is going to be focused more around unique builds for a character that might explore different aspects about the character, or just might have a little bit more fun factor, or just be wacky in general. Just going to be focused on non-meta type builds that are going to do interesting things. So I think this has a lot of potential to be a lot of fun, and if you want to see more characters in the future with a bunch of different weird builds, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, as I'm definitely going to be doing more of these, because I do find building these pretty darn fun, and I've had a lot of fun with this one. So of course, if you haven't been able to figure out, we are going to be starting with Xinyan. Xinyan is a character who isn't very meta in the first place, and she has a lot of interesting scaling and a lot of interesting constellations that really influenced me to start this build and this whole series just in general. So I thought she'd be an amazing starting point. So we'll start off with a very brief, just like synopsis of her talents. Of course, Xinyan has an E skill that does damage and provides a shield, and depending on how many people you hit, it does a DOT of pyro damage over time. It's not a very strong shield, and that's always kind of been a downside to Xinyan, is that the scaling on the shield hasn't been very good, and that's just one of the aspects that is going to come into play here. But also we do get the 15% increased physical damage on Xinyan here while having her shield up, so that is going to be important as well. And those are just a couple of things you need to consider. The constellations are actually very important to this build, and one of the big things that influenced me to kind of do this build. So first of all, the C1 here, whenever you score a crit hit, her attack speed on her normal and charge attack increases by 12%, and this can only occur every 5 seconds, so basically you can keep it up indefinitely if you're just doing crit hits. So that's something to know. And then the C2 here is you do your elemental burst, and it's guaranteed to crit and give you a shield level 3, meaning you're guaranteed to get that DOT, which is pretty darn sweet. The C4 here just decreases physical resistance by 15% whenever you do your E skill. And then the one that is kind of the cusp and pinnacle of this build and what influenced me to do everything is the C6. This decreases the stamina consumption of Xinyan's charge attack by 30%, and additionally Xinyan's charge attack gain an attack bonus equal to 50% of her defense. And this is actually really interesting because they have kind of nodded to the fact that they want us to charge attack with her, and that we also get an attack speed increase with the C1. So I found it very interesting, and I was like, well, how do we lean into the charge attack? And well, there are a couple ways. So when I decided to make a weird charge attack build, I immediately looked at the Bloodstained Chivalry, something that not only gives us physical damage, but also increases our charge attack by 50% and reduces the stamina cost to 0 for 10 seconds after you defeat an opponent. Now, of course, this isn't the best set in the world, because the 4-piece is basically useless against bosses, since you're often not going to be killing enemies around the boss to get it to proc. And typically most people will just go for like a 2-piece Bloodstain and a 2-piece Pale Flame, and that is still entirely viable, but we really wanted to lean into the whole charge attack thing here. And of course you could go 4-piece Shiminawas for this. It actually isn't the worst option, but it does take away some of your energy, but it does increase your normal and charge attack by 50% for 10 seconds as well, but you don't get the stamina decrease, and I found that a little valuable here. And that's just something you want to definitely take note. I do have another actually pretty interesting build for Xinyan that I have been developing as well. So if you guys want to see that, after this, then go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to do a build guide on that as well, because I think I found a more interesting and viable Xinyan build than I had previously for my other build videos. So that's just something that I thought of that wanted to tell you guys there. But for the main stats here, we have attack percent, we have physical damage bonus, and we have crit rate. And these are all pretty darn good. You're going to want to be focusing on crit rate and crit damage. Defense percent is actually very important, because you notice the C6 there does scale off of your defense for the attack bonus there, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But defense, attack percent, crit rate, and crit damage are going to be very important on Xinyan, as well as a little bit of energy recharge just to make sure you're getting your Q as often as you can is going to be very valuable. And just to show you guys the stats and substats of all of my pieces here, we have the flower here, the feather, the attack percent, physical damage, and crit rate or crit damage. Just try to get the best ratio you can. As for weapons for this build, I've actually settled on White Blind. Now, 5 stars are going to surpass White Blind in terms of damage pretty much every time. So if you have a 5-star Claymore, especially something like the Unforged that increases your shield strength, that is definitely going to be the best pick for Xinyan. And in fact, this Wolf's Gravestone that I've recently picked up is definitely going to be dealing more damage. But White Blind does actually do good damage 1 and 2, makes your shield beefier. And I want you guys to think about that for a little bit, because the damage loss that I had from something like not using Wolf's Gravestone, or even something like Luxurious Sea Lord, was actually mitigated by the White Blind's passive of increasing attack and defense by a certain percentage, max 4 stacks, is really darn good. And not to mention, the defense here is way more important than you think, because your shield is going to be around longer. No, it's still not an incredibly strong shield or anything, but it can take 1 or 2 hits, and that is enough to keep it around to do the damage over time, which means you're not going to be losing that damage over time and, you know, just dealing more damage. So that's something you want to consider as well. And not to mention that you actually get a comparable attack bonus to the Wolf's Gravestone whenever you actually get all 4 of these stacks with the charge attack. So when I was doing the charge attack and spinning around and I got all 4 stacks of the White Blind, it's actually pretty much the same as the Wolf's Gravestone before you get the massive 40% increase there. So that's just something to consider as well. So not only am I getting a stronger shield, I'm also doing pretty close to the same damage as something like Wolf's Gravestone. And, you know, I'm not losing that much damage on anything else by running something like the Black Cliff Slasher instead. If you really wanted to lean into the whole after defeating an opponent thing, then the Black Cliff Slasher is definitely going to be the move here, and also going to be an interesting choice. But I did want the extra shield strength, and you'll see that we're still doing some pretty decent damage. So now that we've seen the weapons and the artifacts and some of the constellations and understanding exactly how the build is pretty much going to work, I'll boil it down a little bit for you. Basically, we're going to be trying to group enemies, and we're going to be charge attacking them as much as possible with Xinyan, and trying to get that charge attack to be as free as possible via the 4-piece Bloodstained Chivalry here. And the stats for my Xinyan here are the 1400 attack, the 1300 defense, and the physical damage is going to be 83.3% because of the cup and the bonus from the Bloodstained Chivalry there. And you'll see I have a decent crit damage ratio of 60 and 141%, which is pretty nice. Only 111 energy recharge. I'd like to get that up for this build if possible, but I will also be showing you guys what it's like whenever you start spinning with Xinyan. But also, just to take in consideration my talent levels here, I only have a level 6 normal attack here, and that is definitely going to influence our damage here for the charge attack damage, because level 6 is basically what I would consider the minimum requirement to be dealing some solid damage, and we're at that minimum requirement, so just do keep that in mind. And then of course I have level 9 here on the other 2 talents because I have her at Constellation 6. So real quick here, I wanted to show you guys the attack increase you get. So you see we're at 1400 right now, and then when you start to spin, you get the 50% off of your defense there and added onto your attacks. So we're at 2100 here, so that's pretty darn sweet. And I'll show you guys the Wolf's Gravestone as well. I only have it at level 71 right now, but when you start to spin with this, that puts us at 2400, which is really good, which is really good. And we'll actually show you guys when we get these stacks with the White Blind here, just the sheer attack increase you get. So we'll go up on this hill troll, and we'll hit him, get 1 2 3 4, and you'll see we're at 2300 now with a little bit extra defense, meaning our shield is going to be stronger, and we're pretty darn close to where the Wolf's Gravestone was. So I just wanted to show you guys that little stat increase there. Let's go ahead and actually show off how this build works. So we're popping into floor 12 of this Spiral Abyss here. I gave us a 20% increase in attack. I have Bennett and Zhongli, and one of the most important aspects to this build for Xinyan is you're going to need a grouping character. Somebody like Kazuha or Sucrose. Even Venti will kind of be fine, but you're going to want to keep them on the ground for the spin attack, because having them all bunched up means you're going to be hitting all of them with the spin attack, which is pretty darn sweet. And well, let's just go ahead and show it off a bit here. Let's go ahead and get some shred there, get Bennett's Q, get them all grouped up, use Xinyan's Q, and we start to charge attack. And you can see we're doing pretty solid damage here, and it's a free charge attack because we've defeated at least one of these guys here. The biggest problem, as you might be able to tell, is the fact that you can't really pursue people like this, especially these treasure hoarders who run away. That definitely becomes an issue. And that's kind of why you need a grouping character, to make sure they're all just together and you're dealing as much damage as you can. But you can see the spin to win here is pretty sweet. And Zhongli's here just for the extra shred. And you can see her damage here is actually still pretty darn sweet. And I keep swapping to the wrong character there. There we go. But yeah, it's pretty sweet. Like I really enjoy this build. It's very fun. And it's just spinning to win is a pretty interesting concept for Xinyan here. So yeah, you can see, I mean, in floor 12 of the Spiral Abyss, that's still pretty darn effective. Yes, we had like buffs from like Bennett and stuff, so it's just guaranteed going to be good there. But you can see where it can really start to pop off. So yeah, as you can see, this is actually a pretty effective build, at least when you're dealing with a crowd of enemies. This isn't going to be very useful against like a one singular boss or anything, but you can see spinning to win is pretty darn fun, and you don't necessarily need the extra 50% from the 4-piece of the Bloodstained Chivalry. If you wanted to just go full spin to win and maybe do like 2-piece of the Bloodstained and 2-piece of the Pale Flame or something, that is going to be just fine as well. But really taking advantage of that and being able to spin as long as you want is very, very fun, and I really like it, especially when you pair it with a grouping character like that, and you can just hit everybody in a circle dealing like 10k on the charge attack. There is pretty sweet, and I found this to be a pretty darn fun build, and I do plan to do more fun non-meta builds like this, so I'm pretty excited to actually do those. And if you guys have some like wacky non-meta builds that you want to suggest to me in the comment section below, I would love your opinions on what you want to see in the future, as I'm at that point where I got a bunch of artifacts in Genshin and I can make a bunch of interesting builds at this point, so I plan to do so. But let me know if you enjoyed this type of video in the comment section below, as I'd love your feedback as always. But other than that, my name's Blossoms, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.